If you've ever had a moment where you thought, if I could just go back in time, I would make different choices, that's where Kat is.
She just has a memory bleed and a hidden system she's not supposed to have.
Tripwire, Chapter 5. Frost. System menu. User Catherine. Age 16. Level 0. Experience points 365 out of 500. Health points 10 out of 20. Quantum points 0 out of 500. Strength 2, Dexterity 2, Intelligence 11, Concentration 4, High success at crafting prototypes. Luck 2, Status Active. Skills Design Basics, Locked 45% progress. The store is available at level 3, Grayed out. Quantum Sync Points, Grayed out. Saturday morning brought a gray sky and the quiet hush of cold. Catherine stood by the window, arms crossed, watching frost slide down the outside of the glass like slow raindrops. Her breath left a patch of condensation on the pane. She traced a line through it with her fingertip, then turned back towards the apartment's tiny living room. Gong was repairing something in the kitchen again. The rice cooker's lid just wouldn't seal properly, and the warm setting ran too hot, overcooking the bottom layer every time. "Do you want help?" Catherine asked, stepping closer. Her grandfather didn't answer right away. He removed the lid, examining it under the fluorescent light, turning it gently in his hands. "This part too thin now," he muttered. "Was good before, not anymore." He glanced at her. "You learn to fix things when you can't get new things." Catherine watched him work. He hadn't studied engineering, probably didn't even know what torque meant, but his fingers moved with calm, decisive care. "You think I can use epoxy on that?" she asked. He raised his eyebrows. "You know epoxy?" She smiled faintly. "I read about it." He nodded once, not surprised. "Then you try." Catherine crouched down and took the lid from him. It felt warm from the steam, but the damage was clear, a tiny crack along the inner ring, where tension had built up over years of use. She worked slowly, pressing the epoxy carefully into place. "You know," Gong said after a moment, voice low and musing. "Back in the village, there was an old pot everyone said should be thrown away." Catherine glanced up briefly. "Why?" He smiled faintly, lines deepening around his eyes. "It had a crack down one side. Couldn't hold water. Couldn't hold rice properly either. Every time it was carried to the river, half would spill out by the time it got home." She returned her focus to the epoxy, but her ears stayed tuned to the story. "Some people laughed at the old woman who kept using it, said she was foolish, wasteful, and she could have traded for a new one." Gong paused, tapping a finger lightly against the table. "But when spring came and the mountain paths thawed, a trail of wildflowers bloomed along the road she had walked." He leaned back slightly, gaze distant. 筛王之马，焉知非福, he said softly. When the old man lost his horse, who knew it was a blessing? This was an old Chinese idiom children were taught to memorize, which meant that hidden in misfortune, there may be a blessing in disguise. His voice was almost fond. Sometimes the broken things lead you to flowers you couldn't see before. Catherine pressed the last line of epoxy into place without speaking. But somehow, deep inside her, something fragile and fierce rooted itself. Later that afternoon, Catherine sat cross-legged on her bunk bed, sketchbook open in her lap. She was surrounded by tools dug from the hallway cabinet, a fraying tape measure, 2 screwdrivers, her grandfather's rusted soldering iron, and a container of old buttons and nails. She didn't care that most were dull or broken. She didn't need a perfect lab. She had imagination and time. The system pinged quietly at the edge of her vision. Hands-on reconstruction, 20 experience points awarded. Experience, 365 out of 500. Skill points, 1. She flipped to the next page and began a rough sketch of a collapsible sealing mechanism. Her pencil moved with new confidence. She didn't second-guess herself anymore. She thought about her grandfather's words. Start with what's broken. Her pencil slowed on the page, the lines of her second design, the wearable heating pad still warm under her fingertips. Around her, the apartment felt impossibly small, weighed down by the fridge's hum and Mina's afternoon cartoons in the living room. She looked at the heating pad sketch, the crude ceiling lid prototype on the previous page, and the empty spaces around them. How many things had she thought of before, only to let them die inside a closed notebook? How many had she been too scared to build alone? Her gaze drifted upward to the cracked ceiling. She thought of all the brilliant ideas lost because no one dared believe in them early enough. Of movements that could have changed everything, if only they'd been built before everything fell apart. Not this time. If she found even one person who wanted to build, not tear down, she would hold on with both hands. Maybe this world didn't have to be changed by lone geniuses. Maybe it would take something bigger, a network, a lifeline, a heartline. The word flickered in her mind, almost too soft to hear. Heartline. It wrapped around her like the faintest thread of something future-shaped, something important. But it felt like grasping smoke. It slipped through her fingers before she could hold on to it. I won't do it alone, she thought fiercely. Not when it matters, not when it counts. She pressed her pencil harder, outlining the heating pad's battery slot with precision. Underneath the surface, change was happening. When she finally stretched and looked out, the sky was darkening. The snow had turned gray in the street gutters. Following Gongong out for errands, Catherine passed a small electronics store. The display window was crowded with chunky PDAs, outdated car phones, early portable radios. One clunky device caught her eye, a thick plastic slab of buttons and greenish screens. For a heartbeat, a memory ghosted through her mind, not from any life she remembered, but vivid all the same. Sheets of seamless glass flecks beneath invisible fingers, information flowing like water, not punched through plastic keys. System that didn't obey, they paused and asked why before acting. She blinked. The image evaporated. A chill crawled up her spine as she stood before the dusty glass. Inside a fuzzy television barked a news report. Nova Future Labs and Indara Foundation rumored to be absorbing smaller biotech startups across Europe and Asia. Fears of monopolistic consolidation, influence concentrates in a few hands of a few in emerging biotech fields. Could this be the rise of the tech oligarchs? The TV announcer droned on. Catherine caught only fragments of the words, but something about the announcements left her feeling uneasy. Monday at school, Mr. Kwan stopped her after class again.
I submitted your thermo sketch for the winter science competition.
Catherine froze. You what?
I have confidence in you, Catherine,
he said, handing her a thin manila envelope.
There was a call for student submissions in the winter bulletin. You might not have seen it. You should apply for this too. Here, take it. You don't have to send it in, but you might want to,
he said, and pressed the envelope into her hands. She opened the envelope carefully, scanning the print. National STEM Competition, Winter 1996. Sponsored by Nova Future Labs. Submissions due by February 3rd. Finalists will be flown out to present in person. Toronto Convention Center, Main Pavilion. Catherine's eye snagged on the name at the bottom. In partnership with Nova Future Labs. She flipped to the last page. Most of the flyers showed men in lab coats shaking hands or posing with inventions. But off to the side, in one of the smaller inserts, stood a young man in a dark turtleneck and blazer looking down at something in his hands and not smiling, not posing, accidentally photobombing. The caption read, Elisha Wren, student liaison, son of Nova Future Labs co-founder Michael Wren. Catherine blinked. She didn't know why, but something about him, his posture, the quiet intensity, left an impression. She folded the flyer slowly and tucked it into her backpack. Don't obsess. He's way out of your league. Just move forward, she muttered to herself. At lunch, Catherine sat with Clara again, half listening to the conversations around them. Clara was reading quietly, her tray untouched. Across the room, Joyce laughed with her usual cluster of friends, all manicured nails and fur-trimmed jackets. Didn't you used to hang out with her? Clara asked quietly. Joyce, you mean? Catherine asked. Clara nodded. Catherine hesitated, fingers tightening around her thermos. A flicker of memory broke through the cafeteria noise. The sharp snap of 10-cent bubblegum. Joyce draped over Catherine's shoulders during a middle school sleepover, both laughing so hard they couldn't breathe. They had stayed up whispering in the dark, trading dreams about the futures they were sure they would own. We'll always stick together, Joyce had said, pinky swearing under the glow of a plastic star ceiling. But things changed. Catherine remembered the first time Joyce showed up in a brand new windbreaker, bragging about the mall her parents took her to. How Joyce wrinkled her nose at Catherine's secondhand jeans. How the invitation stopped after Catherine's dad lost his second job. Money had drawn a sharp, invisible line, and Joyce had stepped neatly onto the other side. Yeah, Catherine finally said, voice flat. Our dads used to work together. Then life happened. Clara didn't say any more. She didn't have to. The silence filled in the rest better than words. The cafeteria buzzed. Everyone was primed with the end-of-week energy, hyped by stress as midterms were looming, and hoping for a surprise long weekend as snow day rumors ran rampant, the heavier the snow swirled down. Catherine sat in her usual spot near the back doors, thermos warm in her lap, soaking in the scene in front of her. Just as she was about to turn away, someone slid into the seat across from her. Catherine looked up warily. Joyce, she said flatly. Joyce beamed like they were still best friends. Hey, stranger, you've been avoiding me. I've been busy. Doing what? Drawing weird blueprints again? Joyce eyed her sandwich, still eating those plain, boring ham cheese things. Catherine didn't respond. Joyce leaned closer, lowering her voice. You know about the National STEM Challenge? Heard a rumor your name got submitted. Catherine's brow lifted slightly. So? Nothing. Nothing at all. You've just been acting weirder than usual. I can feel it. Joyce narrowed her eyes and carried on. Word is, students who pass the first round get invited to the UBC Youth Mentorship Program, and the finalists, they go to the Nationals in Toronto. Full scholarship on the table. Catherine's chest tightened. That hadn't happened the last time. Was it because she never applied before, or was the future already shifting? Joyce studied her. You'll never win, she said. It'll take more than duct tape and cardboard cutouts to make it out east. Catherine's smile was razor thin. Good thing then I've moved on to soldering metal. Joyce's smirk faltered. Still won't be enough, she snapped. Keep pretending, poser. And then she stormed off, heels striking angry notes on the tile floor. That evening, Catherine sat at the dinner table, helping Mina with multiplication. 8 times 4, Mina said out loud, chewing her pencil. 32? Mina mumbled to herself as she wrote. Catherine smiled faintly, but it faded as she glanced at the living room. Her mom was sleeping on the couch with her work uniform and apron still on. The remote was dangling from her hand. Her dad wasn't home yet. He had the late shift this week. I will retire you both, Catherine thought. You deserve rest, not worries about if the electricity will be turned off or if the food budget can be stretched enough so everyone can have a warm meal. Catherine clenched her fists. She opened her notebook and began making notes around the collapsible ceiling mechanism sketch, filling the space with measurements. It's time to build prototype, she hissed to herself as she stared at her notes. Suddenly, an idea hit her. She looked at her mom on the sofa, and then her pencil paused, only briefly before flipping to a fresh page. She jotted down a bare-bones illustration, a wearable heating pad, discreet and thin, powered by chemical packets, something cheap, something anyone who would wear on a long bus ride home after a night shift. Maybe her mom and her friends could test it. Later that night, when the apartment was quiet, Catherine accessed the system again. Design A complete. 125 experience points awarded. Experience 490 out of 500. Skill points 1. Progress. She felt thrilled seeing the numbers as they edged up. For the first time in a long time, she smiled. Somewhere far from Catherine's snowy streets, a man knelt in the dark, palms spread against a large frame web of crystal and wire. The web network sang, faintly humming, a perfect chorus, except for one discordant note buried deep in the harmonics at an odd interval, a soft low tweak, easy to miss. He closed his eyes and tried listening harder. Others would dismiss it, saying it was static. No one was listening for it, but he was. That odd note in the flow, that little flaw, it was a minuscule crack in the code. If you blinked, you would have missed the only proof that something human had slipped back into the system. This was something worth hoarding, worth fixing. What shocked him was that he had calculated wrong. How could he be wrong? This arrived 5 years earlier, much sooner than his prediction. His pulse became erratic, that it had arrived. Hope flared to life in his gut. He gripped the frame tightly. He could trust no one with this news, especially amongst the Ascendants. They would destroy anything that threatened their status quo. He quickly smashed his fist into the delicately framed web. The thin wires broke apart under his hands. All those fragile crystals fell and shattered. He made sure to crush it all into fine powder before disappearing into the void. If you're still here, then maybe you felt it too. Something moving underneath the silence. The system is listening now. Just don't blink. Follow the next transmission.